Hello everybody, and today we're going to be breaking down all of the Friday the 13th films, and you don't want to miss it. So we're not going to be talking about the lawsuit that just got won, where part 1 would not be part of canon, because as of right now there's no plans to remake any Jason Voorhees stuff, so the origin remains intact. So let's jump right into it. So first off, you have the origin story in which Jason's mom is the killer in the first movie. That's not a spoiler. If you're a horror movie fan, you already know that. You already know that Jason's mom is the killer in the first Friday the 13th film. If you're not aware of it, then you are now. Now, the thing of that is that that's not a spoiler because so many elements of his history depend on that moment. Jason Voorhees drowned as a little kid. It is here that his mom, who was the cook at the time, decided to get revenge. She decided to murder the counselors who were not paying attention and let her young boy drown. So, she did. And when the camp reopened, she was there once again to do the same. Only this time not as an employee. This time, she was met by a young girl named Alice, who got the best of her. Now, ironically enough, a fact that I see a lot of people miss, and I caught on to this as soon as it was said, was that Mrs. Voorhees said that she was the cook when Jason drowned. She was the cook at the camp. The first victim that she kills in the movie is the future cook of the camp. Now, after that, we jump into part 2. And Friday the 13th part 2 has one of my favorite final girls of all time. Maybe even my favorite final girl of all time, Jenny. But I want to know, who's your favorite final girl? Leave a comment in the comment box below because I want to know what you think. Now, Friday the 13th part 2 is where we start to figure out who Jason is. Jason comes back and we find out that he had been alive this entire time. He had witnessed his mother dying and had gotten revenge. He then all of a sudden comes into the camp where he starts to murder a bunch of the campers. Now, a few of the campers do escape, and it's really weird because some of them never even go back to the camp after this one part of the movie, so you don't know how many actually survive. But I'm guessing, from what I understand, it's a majority of the campers, of the camp counselors, survive in this movie. Now, that being said, when we get into part 3, Jason steps away from the camp for the first time. He's at a nearby cabin where this girl named Chris has brought some of her friends. One of her friends is a practical joker and plays a lot of little jokes. None of them are very nice. They're quite mean-spirited, oftentimes dealing with blood and guts. And he has a majority of masks to choose from. It is here that Jason gets his iconic mask. He then commences to murder all of her friends. Now, from that moment, we go into part 4, which continues on pretty much where the last one left off, with Jason in the hospital. Jason comes out of the hospital. Now, it's important to note, as of right now, Jason is still considered to be mortal. You might see some sort of supernatural element to it, but overall, he's considered to be mortal. Now, Jason Voorhees goes back towards the camps and towards the Camp Crystal Lake, and he sees this couple of cabins where some kids are partying. They're not camp counselors. The camp isn't open yet, and he finds himself in contact with a little boy who likes horror movies named Tommy Jarvis. Tommy Jarvis proceeds to beat Jason. He proceeds to do the impossible. Kill Jason. Only that's where it gets tricky, because he does indeed kill Jason. A lot of people talk about horror movies and the killers never dying. Jason died. We get the next one, which is The New Beginning. Part 5, The New Beginning. And what this does is Tommy Jarvis has been in a mental institution, going in and out of mental institutions and homes and stuff this entire time after not being able to deal with what he did to Jason Voorhees. He believes that one day Jason Voorhees will come back, and lo and behold, Jason Voorhees comes back. Although it's not really what it seems. Not to give any spoilers there, but it's more of a mystery than it is a Jason Voorhees slasher film. That's not to say there's not a lot of slashing in it, because there is. That brings us to part 6, which is Jason Lives. Jason Lives is the most iconic of all the Jason films. It's the film that people say is their favorite most often. What's your favorite? I want to know in the comments. And I have to say, it is one of my favorites. In this film, Tommy Jarvis, having just gotten out of the mental institution, goes and finds the grave of Jason Voorhees. He then proceeds to stab it with a large rod that he finds, while lightning strikes the rod and brings Jason back. Let's be very clear about something. It is at this point that Jason is a zombie. It is at this point that Jason is undead, unkillable. It is at this point that Jason is suddenly something supernatural, for sure. It's not to say he didn't have anything going on before, but he could and was killed. So now Jason Voorhees, this undead monster, comes back, and he's heading for Camp Crystal Lake, and lo and behold, guess who's coming after him? Tommy Jarvis knows what he did, and he knows he's the only one that can stop him. Tommy Jarvis proceeds to go to Camp Crystal Lake to stop Jason Voorhees. And, well, he does. That brings us into part 7, New Blood. And New Blood deals with this girl named Tina, who has telekinetic powers, and she accidentally killed her father years ago in the very same lake. It is interesting to note that I said part 3 doesn't have a camp. Part 4 also doesn't have a camp. And this movie, New Blood, doesn't have a camp opened. There is a party going on in a nearby cabin, and her psychologist brings Tina to the cabin where her father had died so that she can deal with her past. This results in her actually crossing paths with Jason and ultimately getting into a fight like no other with him. I mean, this is some Carrie level stuff, and it's not bad. The movie actually is a bit more cheesy in a bad way, but it actually is still an okay movie. It is interesting also to note that this is the very first movie in which Kane Hodder played Jason Voorhees. Now, when that movie ends, we get to Jason Takes Manhattan Part 8. And Jason Takes Manhattan Part 8... well, that one is a bit more crazy. Because Jason Voorhees is at the bottom of the lake, he actually gets resurrected, kills the 2 kids, and then jumps on a ship heading to New York City that's inhabited by the last kids of Camp Crystal Lake High School, and they are on their graduation field trip. He goes to New York, he meets drug dealers, he meets street gangs, but none of them are ready for Jason Voorhees. Jason Voorhees then proceeds to die in New York, only to be resurrected in the next film, which is the ninth film of the series, and by far the weakest. That would be this one, people. And I don't really like this one at all. Basically, it takes on the guise that Jason Voorhees has this vomit worm, much the same way that Freddy Krueger has the dream worms. And he can possess the body of individual people who then decay and become Jason Voorhees. It's one of the films that very much makes you miss Jason Voorhees in the films because he's not in it very often. It is worth watching if you could see the unrated edition, but other than that, it leaves a lot to be desired. It does bring us into Jason X, which is Jason in space. And essentially what happens is Jason is trapped in a cryogenic chamber, prison of sorts, and these kids come and wake him up. They take him onto a spaceship where he ends up fighting a robot, gets beat up, and goes into a nanobite machine, which then resurrects him. And he becomes Jason X, a cyborg version of Jason. The film leaves a lot to be desired, but after this is when we get Freddy versus Jason. And Freddy versus Jason is kind of an anomaly in that it doesn't really fit into Jason's overall story arc. Jason does come back in this film. Freddy uses him to get himself back in shape. Freddy has been beaten down so much that none of the kids on Elm Street believe in him anymore, and he can't kill any of them. So he resurrects Jason, brings Jason to Elm Street, where he gets mad at Jason really quick because Jason is starting to take all of his kills as each kill makes Freddy stronger. Now, it accumulates in a big battle, and it's really sort of a lackluster type of battle in my opinion, although the movie is okay. It's by far not as great as it could have been by any stretch of the imagination, but if you like Freddy and you like Jason, then it's a sure thing. So make sure that you hit that like button. YouTube likes to know that you hit that like button. Leave us a comment in the comment box because YouTube likes you to do that too, and we really like to hear from you. Also, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Miko thinks we need more subscribers. Isn't that right, Miko? And I tend to think he's right. So go ahead and subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell so you know when we do our next video. Don't forget to share this video with all your friends so that they can enjoy our wonderful content as well. And be safe out there. And remember, friends, at the end of the day, fandom is family.